So I'm going to ask Ms. Lisa Colziol-Kenyon from Northwest Roundtable staff to lead us in an opening prayer.
Please prepare for prayer. Almighty Leader, we ask you that you protect our scouting families, the aging, the weak, the ill, and those serving the public, especially for our friends and families working in the medical fields, fire, police, and food supply. Please protect them and guide them through this difficult time. Fill them with courage and immunity, and let them know they are loved and prayed for. May you heal and protect all our families. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. And if we could also just take a moment just to remember all those who are suffering with the COVID-19 and who may have experienced a loss for a family or friends, that would be appreciated as well. Thank you. And now if I could have Carol from the Southwest District lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Please stand and salute for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
And then if I could have Rebecca from the Northeast lead us in the Scout Oath and Law. Okay, Rebecca, I know you're on there. Okay, so I guess we will move forward with that anyway. So Scout sign. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty.
Here we go.
Okay, you ready, Rebecca?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm not
Okay.
used to this.
That's okay, go ahead.
On my honor, I will do my best
My best.
to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly,
helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient,
Cheerful,
thrifty, brave,
clean,
clean,
and reverent.
2. Thank you.
2. Thank you.
So I'm going to open up tonight's roundtable with some comments from Mr. Tim McCandless, our council executive. Tim, the floor is all yours.
Hey, thanks for organizing all of this, Adrien, and I appreciate you and the other roundtable commissioners that have made tonight's program possible. I see we've got 105 people so far logged in. Welcome to everybody. Although I tell you what, as I scroll through the pictures here of different people, I've never seen so many scouters with beards. I don't know what's going on there. Everyone's got a beard these days. A lot of people I never knew had beards, got them now. Well, I don't know about you, but I've been super inspired what I've seen over the last few weeks by what's been going on in scouting. I've seen so many cool things that various units, various scout families are doing. It was great to see DIN meetings being held virtually, PAC meetings, Eagle Courts of Honor, Patrol Leader Council meetings. I've seen a couple of troops doing virtual campouts where the scouts are setting up campsites in their backyard and then showing it off via FaceTime to the other scouts and doing a campsite inspection, scout by scout, from their own yards. I've seen scout troops making food collection to go to the food pantries. I've seen scout troops making face masks and donating them to local nursing homes and other places. We've had many adults donate blood to the local blood centers and so much more. It's been inspiring to me to see this involvement, even though we've got these crazy restrictions that are interrupting our lives. I'm happy to report that our staff is healthy. There are a couple that have been out of power for the last day and a half or so, but as I'm sure you know, all of our staff have been working from home for the last 3 weeks, other than our rangers who live at our camps. That is their home, but they are busy working and preparing from our camps. We'll hear more about camps here shortly. But the one thing I would tell you is our staff is doing completely different functions from what they would normally be doing. They've been spending time touching base with units, calling unit leaders to see if there's anything we can be doing to assist and help in this period. We've been helping units put on virtual meetings. We've done webinars for unit leaders on how to do virtual meetings. One of our teams is actually putting on virtual DIN meetings every day of the week so that every Cub Scout in the council, if their pack is not doing virtual meetings, there is a virtual DIN meeting for every level of Cub Scouts, Lion on up through Arrow of Light, every week for every Cub Scout in the Narragansett Council. If you haven't seen it, our Adventure Base Camp team produced several program videos that are awesome. Richard and Jim and some others put together videos on a science video, a first aid video, the famous Germs Alive video, which they did a terrific job on. Another team's been working on all the communication pieces, including the virtual scouting webpage, putting together resources and sharing them with leaders, not just from our council, but from across the country to help Scout families stay working in scouting. You know, it's been a huge effort that about half of our staff have been involved in, working in a major way to organize so far 48 merit badge workshops the Narragansett Council has organized and launched, with a bunch more set to go live this coming Saturday. And I had the chance to drop in on a few of them virtually. Today I stopped in with Kayland Arrington, who is teaching public health merit badge. We don't offer that one very often, and she's a public health professional and was doing an awesome job. I stopped in on one with 2 Warwick police officers, Officer Malucci and Officer Al, who were teaching the crime prevention merit badge. It was great to have 2 law enforcement professionals taking time out to teach our scouts that merit badge. Patrick Dalton got rave reviews for teaching the nature merit badge virtually. I'm looking forward to Jason Oliveira is going to be doing the aviation merit badge, I think starting tomorrow, if I remember right. Jason's an American Airlines pilot. We have been scouring, looking for people who are experts in their fields to teach these various merit badges, to offer high quality, highly interactive merit badges with limited numbers so that we can keep them interactive. And you know, organizing and launching 20 new merit badges every week has proven to be a Herculean effort that a ton of staff are involved in and working super hard on. And we appreciate our counselors. Many are tuned into this call that are participating as counselors on several of those badges. And then we've got our team working on the Cooped Up Campfire, which I suspect you'll hear more about during the roundtable tonight. We're coming up this Saturday. We hope for all scouting families in Narragansett to participate in the Cooped Up Campfire. The information's on the website. And then we also have to have the team that's doing the behind the scenes business work to keep the organization working in these really tough environment, just like it is for every business out there. And everything from applying for federal assistance to keeping payroll going and keeping checks going to our vendors and all those things. And teams are working remotely from home to keep all those things moving along. And we appreciate all of them. And I just wanted to say, if myself or any member of our staff can be of assistance to your unit, to you or your family, we sincerely hope that you'll reach out to either me or one of our team members and let us know. We want nothing more than to be of service to you and help you and your unit and your family in any way we can. So Adrien, thanks again for organizing our virtual roundtable. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Tim. Up next, actually, as Tim had mentioned, some updates on camp. So I'd like to have Mr. Tom Sisson and Joram Northrup give some updates on camp and what we are looking at for this summer. So Tom, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Why don't we start with Joram, and he can talk about day camps, and then I'll fill in from there.
Okay, that works for me as well.
All right, thanks, Tom. Thanks, Adrien. So the question on everybody's mind is camp happening this summer? So at the moment, we are planning on camp happening this summer. Of course, we don't know what it will look like, and we're sure that it will likely look different than a typical summer. But at the moment, we are moving forward, and we're looking forward to a great summer. Sorry, my dog's barking. A great summer camp again this year. Of course, whatever that decision is, the health and safety of our scouts and our families and our staff, is going to be the key factor in that decision. It's a
Hello, this is Bob Flynn.
Joram, I think you just dropped out.
I think he did. Yep.
Hey, Adrien, it's Mark Carton. Happy to jump in and fill in for Joram unless he comes back on the line, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mark.
So as Joram has mentioned, we're super excited for day camp programs at Aquapog, Champlin, and Norris, and family camp at Norris, of course. We're hiring our staff. We're moving forward. We have our pack discount. So until we hear otherwise, we're going to plan for camp. And if we do hear that we need to modify our camping season, we're prepared to do that with some contingency plans to shorten the season or do weekend programs, some other things. We're looking at many different options, but right now it's full speed ahead. Planning for Cub Scout camp. If you have any questions about our pack discount that we've rolled out for this year, feel free to put them in the chat window and we can answer those questions. Or any other questions about camp. Like I said, we're super excited about day camp and family camp at Norris. I will turn it over to Tom to talk about Scouts BSA summer camp.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us here. Looks like we have 122 people, which is absolutely fantastic. Just to reiterate what Joram told us, safety of our scouts and our adult leaders is absolutely paramount. And certainly whether we open up or not or have a different type of summer camp all depends upon the recommendations from the health department and, of course, our governor. At all of our camps, we continue almost business as usual. We are getting ready for summer camp. We're working on all those projects. We're cleaning up, setting up, getting ready to talk about setting up program areas. I know Joram's been hiring all his staff at day camps. At Yagoo, we've got right now 160 staff that are hired, and they're excited about coming to camp, some for the first time, and some of them have been around for a while. We had a virtual meeting just like this last week, and we maxed out Zoom. We had 100 people on, and actually a couple of staff were live streaming it so that everybody could be connected, and there was nothing but happy faces. We've got work days all tentatively planned. Looks like we may have to defer the OA ordeal a little later in the springtime, and we are getting ready. All of our capital projects are moving on. The dining hall project is moving along very well. I'm happy with all that, all things considered with lowered workforces. The 2020 hats are going to be arriving at Yagoo in a couple of days. I'm excited about that. There's been some questions about refunds at Yagoo, and if camp doesn't happen or if it's modified, certainly there would be full refunds. Those that get in on the hat incentive program are still going to get their hats. That's an important part of Yagoo, and we want to make sure that all happens. Any updates on Yagoo Summer Camp? www.yagoo.org is right on the front page. COVID update. Also there is talk about our blood drive from March 15th till May 15th. Anybody that donates blood, whether they're in Rhode Island or outside of Rhode Island, gets entered into a drawing. We have giving away 3 $200 gift certificates towards camp. I talked to some adults that actually donated blood, and I told them that they could transfer it to anybody they want, and they said, well, I want to come to camp. So that's all a good sign. So it's great to see everybody, and again, we're planning for camp. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So we're going to be moving into the program at the moment, talk about virtual scouting and sort of why it's important for our units to do. And we're actually going to start with talk about some of the various platform options. And we're going to start with Mr. Robert Bitgood. And for those that are not presenting, if you can make sure your microphone is muted, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. I thank everyone who's actually had some time to basically engage with tonight. Let's go over some brief information. Obviously, most of everyone is kind of getting very familiar with this sort of stuff. So we have various free platform options and available. And in fact, most of these groups right here are actually upgrading from their free versions to actually full-blown versions. One thing that we do obviously want to keep in mind at all times, we want digital safety, what's going on. So at any moment, so any online activities, including video and audio conferencing through any particular platform such as Zoom, Skype, Google Hangouts, Cisco, for instance, must adhere to all BSA's current youth protection guidelines for digital communication, including the digital privacy guidelines and the social media guidelines. Because safety features and privacy controls will vary from platform to platform. Out of respect for family's own preferences, we recommend using business-oriented communication platforms to conduct online group activities instead of stuff that's referenced for online activities such as Discord, Twitch, or Roblox.
Well, that's all this is.
Oh, arrow up there. And then change it to that one.
Adrian, I can't hear you, but I have someone else on my ears.
Okay, yeah, Bob,
excellent.
Just go ahead. I think we got muted now.
I apologize. So obviously, we want to safeguard any personal information, and we have to be aware that any notice should be conspicuous and written in plain English. So, for instance, any video conference platforms, Zoom, have their own privacy policies and how data is collected through the platform. Skype meetings, unit leaders, basic organization for merit badges, they have to obtain personal information from a youth, such as his or her name, phone numbers and email addresses. Any meeting organizations have to keep any information private, and they should not share a youth's personal information with anyone else except that youth's parent or guardian or the unit leader responsible for recording advancements. For example, a merit badge counselor should not publicly post or otherwise disclose a roster containing personal information of scouts or whom the counselor has actually worked with. Any online recording of meetings is not authorized by any means. A Scouting Barriers of Abuse prohibits any one-on-one contact between a youth and adult leader, in person, online, over phone, text, whatever. So basically, recording calls only increases personal risk to us, so do not do it. And collecting any personal information under a youth of 13 is significantly not recommended. This violates the COPPA Act, which is a Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. So for the purposes of personal information, that includes first name, last name, home or physical address, screen names or usernames, such as function online, contact information, telephone number, social security, video, audio, etc. So obviously we want to be quite aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and realize that we are entering into someone's actual house, and they're generally entering ours as well. So we want to be aware of what's going on, what's on our screens, that sort of way. Okay, next slide, please. There are paid options, like the one we're using currently, GoToMeeting, Zoom, G Suite, Cisco, WebEx. Actually, that's pretty much been free as of moment. And Skype is being transitioned out, and they are moving to the Teams product. If you guys are actually collecting that, basically, honestly, if you guys truly need help, most of your youth, if they're older, are going to be using something of this nature. You know, it's kind of like us, like we were mentioning before. We taught our folks how to program the VCR. They actually might help us out with this endeavor. Next slide. So, yep.
I was going to say, I think that's the end of your
My
your
section.
section there on the various platforms, both the free and the paid. So that was appreciated. We're actually going to move on to discussing setting up for the meetings with Pat Saxon. So Pat.
So these are meetings, and like any meeting, it should have a schedule. You should have a plan before you go in. And so planning, for those of you that have continued meeting, the planning pretty much should follow along, except you just can't meet in person. So you've probably been communicating with emails, text, FaceTime on your phones.
I can't hear you.
There's an issue with your audio.
It's on. Yell louder. How about that, Bob?
Pat, can you try it again?
Yeah, what do you think? Is this better?
It was better when we talked the other night.
Yeah, it was perfect the other night. I haven't changed anything. Other than I'm releasing the camera on you. Sorry about that.
If I may, it sounds like it's a connection issue. Try getting out and rejoining.
Yeah, I turned off a minute ago. I'm going to try it, but I turned off a second ago to blow my nose and couldn't get a camera back. But I'll try it again. Oh, I got it. Come back.
Okay, well, we're waiting for Pat to get situated again to come back and talk about that. We're actually going to jump ahead a little bit, talk a little bit about for Cub Scouts beyond the setting up for a den meeting or whatnot, and what some options are out there that you might be able to do. And part of that, in addition to your den meetings, is virtual scavenger hunts, sort of a pickup on your traditional scavenger hunt, except for you're assigning your cubs various items either on a daily basis. You assign them 1 or 2 items that they need to go and find in and around their house or their neighborhood, photograph it, and send something back into you so you can record it. It's a way of doing that, or you can send them a whole list and then have a time frame in which to do that. It's a way of getting them engaged, getting them out, and keeping them active and keeping the whole family active. Another item is your 30-day challenge, which I know the council has some 30-day challenges on their website, and there's various others that can be found online if you just do a Google search for that. Another item, which is actually an old way of doing some stuff, a short backyard hike. I don't know if any of you Cub leaders have done anything like that with your Cub Scouts, taking them out into an area, whether it's the yard or a park, and you do a short hike of 10 feet or so and cordon off an area, let them search and see what they find, items of various shapes or colors, insects and things of that nature, and giving them something to look at. So that is another way to get the family engaged and get them active outside to participate in and reporting back what they find. Another option that's out there currently for a lot of people is actually still taking a field trip, but a virtual field trip at this time. And there are a lot of zoos and museums out there that are doing virtual field trips or virtual tours of places. So some of those items or some of those places being, let me see, what do we got? Museum of Natural History, New York, the Smithsonian Natural Museum of Natural History, the Louvre, Seattle Aquarium, San Diego Zoo. Those are a few of the places that you can get a online virtual tour or experience of their facility, and sometimes it's at specific times or days during the week to do so, but it's still a way of getting your scouts out to experience various things and satisfy some of their adventure requirements. So if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to add to that, you feel free to add it into the chat and we'll bring it up in a bit. Pat, are you back on?
Let me try this. I've got my sound check on, and I see that it's showing green. Do you hear it better?
No, Pat, you're not. It's not working. Unfortunately, it's not working out your connection. I don't know if it's a weather delay or not.
No, yeah,
so,
all I know is, again, it's got an internal check, and it's running at 75% up the green line, so it says it's hearing me.
So we can barely hear you, Pat. So I'm just going to try and go through some of the stuff that we were planning to have you cover, particularly about setting up your meeting for those that haven't gone through and bothered setting up any virtual meetings yet. But you want to maintain a plan close to what you've got now as much as possible. And when you are planning your meetings, make sure you are looking at your committee, your den leaders, your PLC, and determine the platform, as was talked about earlier, which platform you want to use. Do some testing with it to make sure all the kinks work out and everybody has access to it. And make sure it's also usable by all your scouts to get them involved. Develop the plan for your meetings. Keep your schedules close to normal as possible. So if you typically meet on a Thursday night, try and maintain that schedule, whether it's the same time or if everybody's working from home, if you have the luxury of moving it forward a little bit, you can do that as well. Another important part is communicating the plan with your families. Communication is key in this instance, making sure you identify what you're going to be using, share the links to get access, share passwords if you have anything of that nature. And then setting up your broadcasting space or where you're going to be setting your station from at home, making sure your technology is working, that you don't have the glitches, trying to make sure the arrangement is set up and clean behind you. Make sure you're not having any daylight streaming in to affect your camera. Also want to make sure it's uncluttered as much as possible behind you as well, so that way you are still a focus of the presentation and people aren't trying to study the stuff behind you. And then lastly, as mentioned before, is also making sure your video conference platform, you're familiar with the various features of it, and it is something that you can use or your scouts will be able to use seamlessly as you're going through your various meetings here. So once you do have your meeting scheduled and whatnot, as was mentioned by Mr. Bitgood, you want to make sure you have your 2 deep leadership in place. So you always want to have 2 adults participating in your meetings, and for Cubs, ideally it's a family setup, so you'll have those parents there as well. And also for your Scouts PSA, if you've got a female unit that you're doing this with, just a reminder, you need to make sure one of your 2 deep leadership is a registered scouter over the age of 21 or 21 or older. Another suggestion is to have at least 1 co-host to be able to handle any questions that come up in chat and handle any other technical issues that come up, or be able to break off and handle some of those side issues as well. Next item, you want to make sure you open up a little bit early to see if you can work out the kinks, make sure everybody has access and can log into your space. And if you are using a platform that has a waiting room, it allows you to get in and have your presenter set up while people can queue in the waiting space and then move them into your meeting activity. You want to keep your meeting structure as close to normal as possible. So that means maybe you have some sort of gathering activity as you are waiting to formally start your meeting, have an opening, and then have your general session activity time or whatever that meeting is geared around, and then have a closing at the end. So your structure is still maintaining what you've been following all along, so it's not something foreign, and when you get back to meeting in person, you haven't lost a step in terms of what you are doing there. And then also, as was mentioned before about recording, if you are going to be recording, you would need permission of youth. So for Cub Scouts, typically underage there, you do not want them to be recorded, but for those that are older, you want to make sure you do have permission from those scouts to be able to do so, and you have the parental permission. So if the parents are there, it does give you some permission in that fashion right away to be able to do that. But make sure you have something signed, and a health and medical form usually has a release on there that can cover some of that, but it doesn't hurt to get something specific for that as well. So any questions so far? I don't see any popping up yet, but if you do have some, please feel free to pop them in. So we're going to jump ahead to the Scouts BSA section. And
May I ask you a question?
Whom is this?
Bob Flynn.
Okay, sir.
Is it advisable for us to make a separate permission slip for these types of gatherings?
I will actually defer for a moment to Mr. McCandless or Tiffany to answer that one. Tiffany or Tim?
Yep. So one is I just posted, we recommend that you do not record any online meetings that have youth participating. So at the council level, we do not record any of the merit badge workshops that we're doing because of that reason. And you do not have to have parental, or you do not have to have permission slips for participation in virtual meetings, but the meetings should not be recorded if youth are participating. If it's an adult-only function, that would be fine.
I only asked this because we're in our virtual camp out where we're setting up our tents in our yards. One of the things we were going to do was have the boys film themselves setting up the tent and going through their whole process so it could be shared with one another. And it seems like we would be violating this this policy then if we did that.
If they're going to do a filming thing, then yes, I would have parental permission on that. Matter of fact, maybe they get the parent on the film to say they could even do it with the parent being the first thing on the film saying, you know, I'm John's dad or Susie's dad, and I'm here and give them permission to tape this or something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, good question. So we're going to move on to some stuff about programming for Scouts BSA, and we're going to start on that one with Mike Callahan. So Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. I don't know if you can see a video of me or not. Some might, some may not. I have set up a virtual camp here in my living room. And I was going to share that, but I don't know if it's going to be fully shared, so I'll just give it a little description. Let me first off start by saying we're going to have some fun and have some virtual campouts. Now, obviously, you can pitch a tent if you have a backyard, but not everybody does have a backyard. So you can set one up if you can tell parents and such that are, you know, in apartments or otherwise do not have any backyards to set up. They can set one up in their living room. Right here we have, I brought out, clayed out an area, and I have my scout here, and he's got his sleeping bag all set for the night, and we have built a little fake fireplace with some candles, not real ones, the electric ones. He had a little fun, and he put some woodland critters around. We have some marls, we have a bobwhite, and so we're gonna have some fun with that. Of course, we have a game of Stratego in the Boy Scout book, and he has his lantern all set. So you can have an indoor virtual as best you can. What you want to really look for in this is, you know, if you can do things like pitch a tent, then you know, with the permission, do a recording of it, because it counts towards some of the challenges that we have. We can do all sorts of fun little things, because remember, We are youth-led, adult-guided. So this is the time to have your youth do a little planning and set up their virtual campsite, either outside or indoors. Figure out what they want to have for a breakfast. Maybe help them cook it. There's all sorts of ways that we can engage the youth with our own little patrol meetings, our own little campouts. And we can also, at certain elements, use the social media platforms to, like Zoom, to share these with each other. You can, see how other campouts are going in other houses and other homes. So that's one way of still getting them out there or getting that camping experience to them, just to keep them plugged in, keep them from being driven crazy by all the staying indoors stuff. Shake it up a bit, As a Scoutmaster, you can ask questions of them. Who's your camping buddy? Was the parent there? Did the family pet go in? You can have a lot of fun with that. Do remember to try to, look over some elements. Your Scoutmaster will be able to look over some elements to see if there's any rank requirements to be done. Which kind of leads us to the virtual PAC meeting, virtual Scout meetings and virtual PLCs. Right now, my son is with Troop 22 doing a virtual troop meeting, and I'm looking over on his screen. Again, I don't know if you can see anything, but we've got, what have we got, 16, quite a few of the Scouts are online. We see all the little faces up there, and the Scoutmaster is running it through the Zoom meeting, and he's muting and unmuting mics, trying to keep some control of it. But the SBL has met with a virtual PLC beforehand to set up challenges and things like that for the troop meeting. I think our last challenge that we just had for our troop was trying to make a monkey fist knot. But beforehand, we did lashings, and we had them do a weather rock. And we had them send in, with permission, pictures for verification and for sharing with the troop. So with that in mind, we'll also note that the council website has these wonderful things called 30-day challenges. And we have, they're broken up by ranks, and they're broken into 30 different little squares, little segments that will continue to keep them moving along in their ranks. And they're kind of amusing more, for doing them at home, and then they check with their SBL, they check with their Scoutmaster during the troop meetings. And that keeps them moving along, because you don't want to get them stuck in a rut, stuck nowhere during this time of separation. But that can be found on our Narragansett Council website. They're wonderful things, very useful for any troop. It's called the rank challenges. We can continue also using Zoom and using the various platforms to have Scoutmaster conferences, board of reviews. Those are pretty easily done. Remind yourself, however, as Scoutmaster, to continue with YPT and do too deep leadership. Let's see, what else have I got here for you today?
So thank you. I think we're switching over to Brian at this point.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so thank you, Mike. Thank you, Adrien. Thank you all for what you do for scouting and keeping it live. So you're probably all asking yourself the question that all of us do is, well, how do we have our scouts rank up in these difficult times? And DSA put out a great that came out in the email that Adrien sent out earlier. That was from scouting.org/coronavirus/COVID-19 frequently asked questions. And it goes over some change to rank requirements. So if you have somebody that crossed over and is looking to go from scout to tenderfoot, are there provisions for them to do some virtual stuff? The answer is yes. They can virtually meet with the patrol. They can do virtual campouts. For the cooking, they can virtually do it with the troop, the patrol, and their families, which is pretty cool. They'll be able to demonstrate the methods for safe cleaning items and preparing, serving, and eating the meal. Their patrol ends up being their family. So they can show their troop, their patrol, what they're doing and be able to do stuff at the house. And again, this is all to keep the younger scouts engaged, ranking up, and moving forward. So BSA has come up with these ideas of, okay, what can we do in these tough times to make it so they can still fulfill the requirements, but do stuff virtually. So I'm not going to go through every single requirement, but if you take a look at that publishing, they'll give you some great ideas. Next one is the virtual Scoutmaster Conference. Any Scoutmaster that's out there right now loves this time to be able to sit down with the scout, talk to them, get to know them a little bit more, find out what they loved, what they didn't love. But how do you do that virtually? And there's a few things that they put out there to show how they do it virtually. What you want to do is make sure that you adhere to the YPT, and to do it so there's at least one more registered adult on the video. My suggestion would be make sure that everybody's unmuted in the beginning, just to let each scout or the scout and the scoutmaster and that third party who's on that call. When the questions start going, mute that third person, because the conversation really is just between you and the scout. It's not from that third person. The third person's there just for the YPT. You can also have the parent at the beginning of the call on there, just so the parent knows who's on the call, and then have them drop off, because it is a conversation between the scout and the scoutmaster, not the parent and the scoutmaster. So there are ways to do it. Virtual board review. Same thing, you can do that virtually. You can set it up so you have 3 or more people on the board. You have the scout, have the parent and the scoutmaster, or whoever's presenting that scout, on the video in the beginning. So everybody can see who's on the board, who the parent is, who the scoutmaster is, and also see who is presenting that scout. Once you do the introductions, the scout's ready to have the board review. The scoutmaster or whoever's presenting the scout drops off, the parent would drop off, and you'd be left with the scout and the board review on the video. So that's a great way of doing it. Virtual merit badges are great to do troop to troop. So if you want to run a merit badge in-house to keep your scouts alive and interacting with one another, because you're having a difficult time doing other things, that's a great way of doing it. But if you're also looking for merit badges, Narragansett's put on a phenomenal program, which Kevin was going to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Brian. So Kevin.
Yep. I need a camera.
Yep. Just hold on one second. I'm going to switch it over to you. Once I find your name in the list.
I'm halfway down.
You get it?
Yeah. I've already, and I've got my share. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to talk about getting yourself ready for a merit badge. So I've had a couple conversations with the good folks at council, and for those of you who have not seen it, Brian on Scouting put out a good list of 58 merit badges that you can do virtually. And that's council's working diligently to get all of those fulfilled. One of the great things is if you want to work in-house inside your troop, say you have like 2 or 3 boys that want to run, they want to do a merit badge, I suggest you contact Kara at council. She's handling the merit badge counselor validations. But if you want to start one, you can actually go ahead. There's 58 of them there. Scoutmaster approves all merit badges, and if they see that the scout is capable of doing so, they can approve it and get that scout rolling with that merit badge. Now, there are resources online all over the web that you can find workbooks and all the information on how to do the merit badge yourself. But what I'm going to show you is something that I've been using. I've been teaching the personal management merit badge for council. I've done it once. I'll probably do it again here in a week or so when I get an open time slot. But I'm going to share my screen right now to something called SlideShare. It's a LinkedIn resource, and I'm going to show you right now. This is a slideshow that is available out on SlideShare. This gentleman here, Robert Casto, wrote it. He's out of Danbury Council, Ohio, and it's out there to be used. And what he does is he walks you through the entire merit badge, give you a description of why it's required, participation, things like that. Obviously, the financial disclaimers, because it is a money-based merit badge, gives you a little bit of information to go over. And then it starts talking about the logistics of the merit badge and the requirements. So the great thing I love about doing this virtually is that there is no such thing as I forgot my packet. It's all right in front of the scout. It's right here on the, requirement 1 talks about what it needs, and then they go through it. If you have a merit badge that you can't find a PowerPoint presentation for, you can use this as a really good template. It walks you through every single requirement, talks about all the different aspects of it, and gives really good examples of the information that's being reviewed for that particular requirement. And I'm just going to go quickly through to show you. It goes through every single aspect. This would have been a huge pain right here. Me building this slide here with the budget, it's already done. Being prepared as a scout, one of the great things is if you can find something that's already been done and you can use without getting in trouble, it's on the internet. You can use it. Go find it. It's out there. Just Google whatever the merit badge is and you can find it. But what I would suggest first is check what we have at council, what merit badges are being offered. We've got 20 odd merit badge classes running at any given time that you can go ahead and you'll find someone who is verified by council to teach that merit badge. And the great thing is they'll also usually have someone from council on that merit badge class with you. So the 2 deep leadership is already squared away. If you're doing it with your troop, let me see if I can't stop sharing real quick, because you don't want to. Pretty sure you don't need to see the rest of all of this shenanigans. There we go. So what you can do is you can have the parent of the child or the parents of any of your scouts out there present while you're doing your presentation, and you can just go ahead. There we go. Now I don't need to share anymore, so I'm going to try to close this. Anyway, I'll just talk like this. So what you can do is you can have the parent of your scouts present with them. They don't have to be sitting there physically on video, but they just lean in, wave, say hi. That they're there so that you have the 2 deep leadership covered. But this is what I found is this is one of the most interesting and amazing ways to do merit badges virtually, because you're not hindered by whatever the scout can fit into the car and bring to the meeting, or any of their issues that might come up from there. When you're all online, wherever the scouts may be, everybody's just in a big room talking, having a good time, and learning all the things that they need to become good scouts and ultimately get that eagle. And one last thing, when you are doing something like a online merit badge, when you're teaching something like this, behind me, you'll see this big black wall. It's actually just a king size sheet. All you do is just go buy a king size sheet, pin it up on the ceiling, and shut off the lights behind it. Makes it a piece of cake. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Adrien.
Thanks, Kevin. We're actually going to be moving on to Brian Norton from the Southwest. He's going to talk a little bit about some other virtual options that are out there for both packs and troops, as well as crews and ships if they so chose to want to participate as well. So Brian, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay, Adrien, thank you. So welcome everyone. As Adrien said, my name is Brian. I'm with the Southwest District Roundtable team. We want to talk about things that all of your units can do, whether you're a pack or a troop. An easy scouting thing we can do is having a virtual camp out. You just go out in your backyard and have the scouts set up their tent. They can connect with the members of their den or patrol through social media or video conferencing and share the experience. In the mornings, you can have unit leaders conduct a virtual campsite inspection to see if the tent is located properly and set up right. So yeah, virtual campouts is definitely something that we can do during this time, and that can meet some requirements. As you heard earlier, National has changed some of the requirements for Boy Scout advancement, and the Cub Scout advancement does allow for family camping to meet requirements. So check with them on that. Another thing we can do, depending on where your unit is a virtual campfire. You heard about that earlier. Narragansett Council will be running a virtual campfire program this weekend. Be sure to check that out. That's something good to see. When you're doing these virtual scouting events where it's a camp out or a campfire program or whatever virtual scouting that you're doing, you want to keep it as much like a normal event as you possibly can. So you want to have your normal opening ceremony with our troop meetings. We try to keep, an opening and the skill instructions and try to keep everything seeming as much like a traditional scouting program, whether it's your camp outs or campfire programs or anything. Another nice thing, Narragansett Council has developed the, what are they calling it, the Scouting at Home Award. Yes, thank you, Adrien. Scouting at Home Award. You can go to the Narragansett Council webpage and look up the requirements here. You just do the things that you would do as a scout, just do them at home, and you can earn this award, so that's pretty cool. The last thing we want to cover is training. This is a good opportunity when you're home. I know a lot of us are home and have a little extra free time right now. That's a good time to catch up on your training. The youth protection training, you have to take that every 2 years. Now is your opportunity. There's new trainings going up. I saw on Facebook there's a training coming up soon on how to run a youth-led troop, which is a subject I'm very passionate about. So be sure to go to the council website and check out the training opportunities that are available. That's all I've got. Yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat window. I'll be reading that. And other than that, back to you, Adrien.
Thank you, Brian. So just before we start moving on to some unit stories of how they've had success going through here, I just want to touch upon sort of the importance of virtual scouting in your membership for your units. One of the things to remember here is that retention is actually a big factor in membership. So if you are not keeping your unit engaged during this month plus right now, and probably looking at another 3-4 weeks at this point before meeting back together, there's a good chance you can be losing some of your scouts. So you want to make sure you're reaching out to them and staying engaged in some fashion to keep that retention going. And then also, if you are maintaining a vibrant virtual scouting program, make sure you're having your scouts invite their friends to participate. It is a requirement for, I think it's first class, for a scout to invite a friend to join. So why not have them invite them to join into a troop meeting that you're having virtually? And same thing with Cub Scouts, have them invite their friends to participate in some of the online activities that they are doing to try and build the membership in your units before you start meeting back in person again and before you start heading off to summer camp. So those are the only items I wanted to touch upon for membership. Just make sure you're keeping that in mind, because it is vital to your units. If you're not keeping them engaged, they'll be falling off and your units will be shrinking, and it'll be a little bit harder for you going forward as you build back up in the fall. So at this point, I want to start rolling into some success stories, and there's a couple of units I know we've reached out to and people have offered to speak. And the first one that I wanted to do is Pac 7 Slatersville, Jason Berard. So Jason, if you are online here, please feel free to unmute your mic and take about 5-8 minutes and share the success that Pac 7's had with running virtual PAC meetings and den meetings.
I am. Good evening, everyone. So PAC 7 had our first virtual PAC meeting right around the end of March. I'd like to say that it was a pretty decent success. The kids, I get a lot of positive feedback. So some of the things that we did, obviously you guys talked about pre-planning, so that's certainly key. You know, for me, it was kind of taking a look at these young cubs, taking a look at my own kids, and what is it that captivates these kids' attention, right? So they're a lot different than we were growing up, the things that we did. My kids can spend hours watching the YouTube family or YouTube videos, and it's really it's an interactive experience for them. So I set a goal for myself to try to think about how I can provide the same level of enthusiasm that they get from watching these videos and tie that into a PAC meeting. So there's a couple of things that we did. One of the things I give credit to our committee chair, Dee Simpkins. She had proposed the idea of putting together an adult skit. Our kids love it when we're crazy. And she came up with one of the classic, you know, important papers skits. And so I ran with that and rewrote the script and, you know, changed it to coronavirus and, you know, what are the papers that the schools are sending home, the packets of work the kids are getting. And we created this video skit. We had our leaders, they did some videos at home. They were sent to me, and it was a little bit of a challenge because I had to kind of figure out my part to segue into theirs. But so we did some skits. We actually had that one with an adult skit, and then we also had the Bears. They did one of the classic emergency broadcasting skit, and it was great because it was a really good surprise for the kids. So as I was building the meeting, I'm thinking about, you know, I don't want to be a talking head. I don't want to be just them seeing me on this screen. They're getting enough of that at school. So I set forth on a mission to have an opening ceremony with my son, who's a bear, and he was in his full uniform. But I had my daughter, who's in Troop 438, and she had the laptop, and she was kind of like the cameraman woman on the laptop. So I wasn't running the meeting. I had Mrs. Simpkins, who our committee chair. She was at her house actually hosting the meeting while my daughter Danielle was following me around. And it was actually a virtual meeting where they're walking with me through different rooms of my house. And I wanted to kind of utilize what was going on because these are young kids. I want them to understand. I don't want them to be scared. So we talked about cleanliness, which is an element of the Scout Law. And I tied that into coronavirus. And I used some of the science experiments that many of us have probably seen and actually done maybe with some of your cubs, where you put milk, you put the food coloring in, you get the Q-tip with the Dawn, and it pushes the fats and the proteins away from the soap. And I explained to them that this is similar to the proteins that are on the outside of a coronavirus, and how the soap is the most important thing, and the water just washes away the virus. And then kind of segued into right at the kitchen sink, hey guys, here's how we wash our hands for 20 seconds. And you know what? We're not going to do it to the happy birthday song. We're going to do it to the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. And I created this hand washing routine that tied in the Scout Oath, the Scout Law, especially for our younger tigers, our lions, our tigers, maybe a few of our wolves who haven't necessarily committed it to memory. Now they're taking away something, and they can actually start to wash their hands and think about scouting as they're washing their hands, hopefully multiple times a day, and practicing cleanliness. From there, we cut into a skit. That skit led into another experiment. That led into another skit. And then finally, I had a craft for them. So I had taken my kids, we went on a scavenger hunt out in the yard. We collected some sand, some pine needles, some grass, some sticks. We made a campground diorama, a miniature campground diorama that we shared with the cubs, and I showed them what they could make. And right on camera, I'm putting the glue down on the plywood. I'm spreading the sand. I'm building the diorama, giving them online virtual instructions, because what I want to do is I want to give them something that when they're done with our virtual meeting, they can actually go out and do something in their yards with their parents and actually think about scouting while they're doing it. So the takeaways for me were, don't be a talking head. If you're going to take this on, they don't want to see us just talking to them, right? Try to make it as interactive as possible. Have somebody control the camera for you. It took a huge load off of me where I'm not trying to run a meeting. I've got my daughter following me around. Have somebody host the meeting for you. So as you're pulling up, whether it's a video clip, whether it's some other kind of social media that you're going to share, you don't have to deal with it. It's kind of like a live editing program, and it flowed really well. Keep it fun, keep it moving. You got to keep them engaged. So the fact that we were limited to 40 minutes because Zoom free subscription was 40 minutes, that kept me on my toes. It kept it moving, and we were moving from one activity to the next, and the kids were engaged. Make it impactful. And most importantly, I would keep it to right about an hour, but I would save at least 10 minutes at the end of the meeting to just let these kids be goofy, right? Let them be goofy on screen. They miss their fellow scouts. They miss their friends. They miss running around at wherever you're having meetings, the church halls. It was wonderful to see these kids when I said, hey, you know what? We've got a few extra minutes. Why don't you guys just be silly with one another? To me, it was the greatest part of the meeting. And it gave me a lot of satisfaction to see all the little faces. It really was a great meeting. So those are kind of my takeaways. If that's helpful to anybody, if I can be of assistance, reach out to me. But I'm getting ready for our April meeting. We're going to do another one hopefully at the end of April, and I've already kind of planned my activities. And when you're looking at your activities, go outside of the handbook. Our kids they've all, maybe except for a few of them, have already made rank. They've probably all earned their belt loops, so I don't want to send them back into the handbook to do the same belt loops. So I spent hours combing YouTube, science channels, different channels to find activities for these kids to engage them. So that's what I have to offer.
Great, thank you, Jason. Before we move on to the next unit, I'm actually going to ask Joram to step in for a moment and just talk a little bit about the Saturday's campfire. Joram?
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. So this Saturday, April 18th, 7 p.m., we are presenting the Narragansett Council Presents Cooped Up Campfire. So it's going to run from about 7 till 7:45. It's a great opportunity for families and scouts to get together, to gather around the laptop, maybe get a fire going in the fireplace or outside in the outside fire pit, and join us with some familiar Scout spirit. We'll have some notable faces that you'll definitely recognize from camp, from Scouts and otherwise. We have Mike Blossom, who is an astronaut and Eagle Scout. He'll be joining us, as well as some surprise guests. We're also going to be rolling out a skit and song contest. So there's some details up on our Facebook page. Any Scouts, Dens, Patrols, Packs, Troops that want to submit a short video with a skit or a song, we'll show the best ones during the campfire, and Scouts will have a chance to vote, and the winner will get a $50 gift card for the Scout Shop. So again, that's Saturday night at 7 p.m. and I'll drop a link for the campfire in the chat, and we hope to see everybody there. Thanks.
Thank you, Joram. So moving on to the next unit, I'm going to stick with another pack here. So Pack 4 Gaspee has been doing some virtual scouting as well. So I'm going to have Mr. Mark Carden talk about the experiences of Pack 4. Mark?
Thanks, Adrien. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's healthy and doing well in isolation. Jason, sounds like you guys are doing a bunch of awesome stuff with Pack 7. So we've done a lot of the same things. What I'd recommend, we're using Zoom. There's many platforms out there. We actually paid for the $15 a month buy-up, if you will, so we don't have a time limit, although we do try to keep it to 35 or 40 minutes. That's about the as long as we want to go. As has been mentioned, keep it kind of to your normal schedule. Do an opening, do a Cub Master Minute, do all that normal stuff that you do at the meeting. What we've started doing at first, we just kind of did a pack-wide. So we meet on Thursdays, 6 p.m. We just had the whole pack together. We have a few features. But now we've started actually doing den time. I've spoken to a bunch of packs that are doing separate Zoom meetings or other meetings for den time. What's nice with Zoom, with the paid version, you can do breakout rooms. So each den has their own breakout room. So they have their own den time, just like they would on a normal meeting night, and they can work on their advancement or have a chance to catch up. You know, Jason mentioned give them a chance to be silly. They love connecting. First of all, they just love seeing all the faces on the screen like we see now. They don't, it's still a novelty for them. But I've heard from maybe a dozen parents that have just sent me a note that said, thank you for doing this. This means a lot, because it gives them a sense of normalcy. And one of the favorite segments that we do every week is, for lack of a better term, a show and tell. So usually each week I issue a challenge. This past week, our feature was on a foil packet cooking, and I issued the challenge, hey, send me a picture or a video of you cooking something or helping out around the house. And parents are blowing up my phone with pictures of kids cooking foil packets on the grill, helping out with the dishes, making cookies, helping out with Easter dinner. So it's great. And what I'll do is I'll turn those into a slideshow, and I'll share those during the next meeting, and kids love it. Another thing that I do, I tried, and I'm like, oh, this will be a train wreck. But I'm going to try it anyway. They get to do show and tell during the pack meeting. So I have them raise their hands, and it's like, all right, you know, Billy, go. I unmute Billy. He shares his thing. Susie, go. She does her thing, and they love that. They love sharing with their friends. So don't underestimate the value of that, them connecting, because they're not in school. They're not seeing their buddies. It's really important. Human beings are meant to live in isolation like this, so it's especially difficult on children, them not being in school. So give them that time to connect with each other. And don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You don't have to have the world's best pack meeting, online pack meeting ever. You just have to have an okay pack meeting, because we're looking to keep kids engaged, have them stick with scouting, and give them a distraction. So that's all I had for Pack 4. Thanks, Adrien.
Thank you, Mark. So I'm going to move on to Troop 40 in Taunton, and going to have Laura Karen share the experiences of the troop. So Laura, if you could unmute and share the experiences of Troop 40.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, basically we've kind of touched on everything that we've been doing so far, which actually makes me very excited that we're kind of, doing everything that we can and that we should be. But basically, we've been holding troop meetings for, tonight was our 4th troop meeting. So we basically started a week or so after the shutdown came, I guess you'd call it. The first night, so we're using Zoom, and the first get together was kind of just a free for all. Everybody figure out how to use Zoom and have the kids all make, crazy faces, put silly backgrounds behind them, and just kind of a get together to kind of break the ice. And since then, we've been having our weekly troop meetings, which, like everybody else, we start with the pledge, the law, the oath. We do use the breakout rooms for patrol time or skills, and then come back together and review the topics that the patrols discussed and what they want to see moving forward. Some other things we've done over the last couple of weeks outside of our normal troop meetings are advancement nights. We will have the boys voluntarily, if they want to work on their advancements, get onto the Zoom call with as many adult leaders as we can, and they'll split it up. So, the younger kids are obviously working on certain advancements, and other older kids are working on different ones. So we'll break those into the different breakout rooms, and they'll decide what advancements the majority needs, and they'll work on those. So honestly, I feel like the scouts have been working really hard on the advancements and potentially getting more of them completed than they otherwise would during a weekly troop meeting. One other thing that we did that was fun is kind of a skills/advancement Saturday, where we took an hour and a half, and we had planned it out ahead of time where there would be 4 presentations. So there were 4, say 25, 35-minute presentations. One was on some of the swimming skills, obviously not in a pool, but there were some skills that needed to be reviewed otherwise. Cooking, lashing, tote and chip, and there may have been one other. But the 25 minutes or so time frame was just about the right amount of time to keep the kids' interests before they moved on to the next skill. We got a lot of good feedback on that. We've also done a few Saturday campouts, again, where the boys, as has already been mentioned, they set up their little tent site in their basement or outside, and they kind of just have fun. We do a scavenger hunt during it, a little search and find what's in the picture. And the kids kind of come and go over the course of 4-6 hours. We have also had our committee meeting by Zoom, which went very well, and we do have a lot of new. We have a young troop, and we have a lot of crossovers this year. We have 10 Aerolites that crossed over into our troop, and they're from 3 different packs. So this opportunity to have so much time together virtually, I feel, is going to benefit those new Cub Scouts, because they're all starting to get to know each other, because they're kind of forced to get to know each other, so that when we come together in person as a troop, they're going to have stronger relationships, I think, than they otherwise would have coming into the troop and just meeting once a week. But I think that the other thing is, and I think it was, now I can't remember who mentioned it, I think it might have been Jason, but definitely, even though they're not Cub Scouts and they're in the troop, like I said, most of them are young, but they absolutely need to have their free time to kind of have a few minutes to be crazy and goofy. And it's a lot of fun to just watch them have fun. So that's a definite. And I think that's it. I don't know if there's any questions, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're all kind of doing the same thing.
Thanks, Laura. So before we move on to the next one, actually, I want to invite Mr. Bob DeFelice to say a few words about an upcoming virtual training event. So Bob, if you can unmute and say what you have to say.
Awesome. Great. Could you give me screen sharing rights? All right, great, thank you. All right, just 1 second here. Okay, all right, so that's first, oh, hold on. Okay. All right, here we go. All righty. Does everyone see that Excel file? No? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, it's there, Bob.
Okay, great, excellent. So as following our virtual theme here, if you missed University of Scouting, well, it's coming back to you as a virtual classroom. And we're busily filling up time slots. So this is the current courses that we have scheduled. So it's the same great material that you got at University of Scouting in February, except virtually. So our same presenters are coming back. So we're very quickly filling up time slots. The time slots that you see new next to will go live on Saturday morning. And one specific one I wanted to call out is the Autism Project was volunteering their time again with us. And they will be presenting serving scouts with special needs, ADHD. This was hugely popular in February. I think we had 50 people attend this class. They do an unbelievable job. So if you haven't seen this class through the Autism Project, they do an absolutely lovely job at this. This is great, highly reviewed. I'd encourage you to sign up for that class. Then of course, having youth-led troops, scout book, outdoor ethics with Bob Sturhall, lots of great topics here for you to sign up for. And keep an eye here because as you can see, we've got open time slots. So we'll be adding more courses as we recruit additional instructors.
Thanks, Bob. So moving on, I'm going to continue with some troops here, and I want to have Jason Duclos from Troop 711 Albion share experiences that Troop 711 has had with virtual scouting the last month. So Jason?
Thank you, Adrien. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So we've been holding virtual troop meetings for several weeks now. I believe we started as soon as the shutdown happened. We're keeping the meetings at the same time, same day of the week. They are going a little bit longer, mostly because the scouts are enjoying themselves. At the end, they tend to socialize a little. We're keeping the meetings simple, having an opening, letting the senior patrol leader, assistant senior patrol leader lead the meeting. Earlier in the week, the youth leaders get together and have a PLC to go over what that week's meeting is going to be about. And that really helps keep the meeting moving along. We've been lucky that we had a couple involved parents, registered adults in the committee that have access to paid Zoom accounts. So we haven't had to go out and purchase our own, so we don't have any time restrictions. Touching on Zoom, we are using different numbers every time we're putting passwords. We're utilizing the waiting room. We're asking the scouts to, put their name on there so we can identify who they are. We haven't had any issues so far with uninvited guests, so that's been good. That first troop meeting was kind of like a shakedown. We had all the scouts get on with the parents, work out all the kinks of technology, and then just let them talk to each other. In addition to the troop meetings and the PLC, some patrols have been setting up additional time to meet together and work on rank requirements. During the troop meetings, we've utilized the breakout rooms to move the different patrols out so they can focus on their own thing and then bring everyone back together for the last 10 minutes or so. We've been holding virtual conferences, whether it's patrol leader conference, senior patrol leader conference, scout masters, or board of reviews. We've had a couple scouts rank up through that process over the last few weeks. It's been a very good experience. It's keeping the scouts engaged. At first, we were struggling with some of the younger scouts that had just crossed over. But after persisting few emails to parents, we have probably about 6 or 7 of the 9 or so that crossed over participating in a weekly basis. And I think that's about it.
Great, thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
So continuing with troops, I'm actually going to have Troop 4 Gaspy share some of their experiences. And Joe Fontaine, if you're on, can you unmute and share your experience?
Sure. Yep. This is Joe. How you doing? So I'm not going to elaborate and repeat on some of the great stuff that everybody else just mentioned. I maybe just talk about some differences that we've been doing. So one thing is we do a weekly PLC, and we've been working with the boys to help on the communication skills, organizational skills, and just kind of the differences that they have to do when they're going to do a virtual meeting and a Zoom meeting, and letting the boys actually run the meeting. We paid for the Zoom account so we can do the breakout sessions. So last week was our first one when we did the whole troop together, and then try to do the breakouts. Although the boys had some good lessons learned about practicing and working with the different technology. They did have some difficulties setting up the breakout. They had practiced once, but they had issues when they tried it again. So I think it's just a great learning experience for the boys. It's not that different than we are doing ourselves probably with meetings for work, and they're learning how to coordinate that in virtual meetings and video conferencing. So besides the weekly PLC, another thing that they've kind of discovered is having some ground rules, what they should be doing during meetings, having a host, as someone mentioned. So one of the boys will be the host to kind of control the meeting, while the people that are trying to perform the activities or whatever the theme is, that can actually do that. So I think that'll be a big help for them. This week's theme is it's personal health. They were pretty excited about doing that, so they're going to start rolling in different ideas about how to protect themselves and stay healthy. And then I think next week is going to be personal fitness, and we have a bunch of new boys that crossed over, and they are working on their scout rank. We've done 3 boards of review using Zoom for those boards of review. Had multiple parents for each one, so that worked out fine. And happy to report one of them actually was one of our special needs scouts, and he did well. Actually, he might have been felt more comfortable on the Zoom as opposed to having people in person. So some great success stories there. We have a scout going for star. That'll be coming up very soon for a Scoutmaster Conference and a board review there. So getting through the different nuances of the technology, and the boys are learning a lot. And like I said, just trying to do that normally, and then trying to get the boys to prepare and understand the differences. I think that's probably the key for doing it. Over.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. So staying in the same sort of region, I'm going to slide over to Troop 3 Gaspee and have Kate Nicolo share their experiences with Troop 3. Kate? Are you
Hi.
still on?
So,
Go ahead.
sorry, my mic cut out. So we have been doing a lot of the breakout rooms, and that has been working really good. And we have also been working on merit badges as a troop, and we have also discussed in our meetings ways to sign up for merit badges that the council is offering. And it seems to be going very well with the breakout rooms and everything that we're doing. And it's really refreshing at the end of the meeting. Usually what we do is we play a game of Jeopardy that has scout themed questions, and that's a really fun way to just sort of relax.
So how have the scouts themselves been finding it? I assume it's been very successful for you?
Yeah, it's been really good.
Okay, Kate, thanks for your input. Last unit that I had is Troop 1 Seekonk, and I know Michelle Grease was supposed to be sharing some experience, but I don't see
I'm here.
her. Oh, you are here. Perfect. I didn't see your name in the list. So Michelle, I'll turn it over to you.
So we've been doing a lot of what everyone else has been doing, but I'll touch on a couple things that I haven't heard. So we've been doing Scoutmaster Conference and board reviews with Zoom, but also with FaceTime. That's been working out for us sometimes too. We've been using Zoom for our troop meetings, but then using just the free Zoom, so we only do it maybe half hour or 40 minutes, a little bit shorter than we usually do. But then we encourage the scouts to do something outside of the meeting time. So in particular, you know, the SPLs will give them a challenge. Like this week, they had to light a fire with flint and steel and show a video of them doing it. And so we have very tech savvy scouts, more so than most of the adults, of course. And so like our webmaster and our SPLs have worked on setting up a Google Classroom to put some of the challenges and assignments in there. And they have another app they're using called Flipgrid, which is where the scouts go and they load their videos up into that so that no one leader has to have, you know, access to anything. So everyone has access to these the videos. And we've been encouraging them to do cooking at home, to be cleaning up, you know, when they're going out for their walks during the day, you know, litter patrol kind of stuff. And then I think what else? Positions of responsibility. So we've been encouraging that a lot. So our historian, you know, keeping track of some of the things that maybe we let slip for a little while, having him do some more work while we're at home, having the webmaster do more work onto our Facebook page, things like that. And then I think the biggest thing that we have coming up now is we had scouts from a pack last week that were supposed to cross over. We were waiting to see what was going to happen, how long we would be apart for, and we just decided that we're going to do a virtual crossover. So I've been working with the pack to figure out what that's going to look like, and we're going to do that at the end of the month. So that'll be exciting.
Michelle, thank you. So that's what we've had for all our units to share experiences, and I appreciate all the units to step in and do that. And I know there are more units out there that are doing virtual scouting, too many to actually have share tonight without going till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock or so. But anybody who has anything they do want to share or other questions, please put it in the chat. So if we haven't gotten it to tonight, we can hopefully address those questions in a future constant contact email that goes out. But at this moment, I'm going to turn this over to Council Commissioner Paul Schofield to give us a closing commissioner's minute. Paul?
Great, thanks Adrian, and thanks again to everyone here for taking the time this evening and joining us. This is really a big collaborative effort across the council, and it's our first virtual roundtable that we put on. So congratulations to everybody that helped make this a success. Just want to leave you some closing thoughts. Many of us, I'm holding up here my car key. Many of us have a car key as a rather small item that we can take with us, but it really opens up a whole world of opportunities for all of us where we can hop in our car, take off and go visit faraway places, see wonderful sights, and see other people up until a couple weeks ago. Similar to our car key is our Scout handbook. It's still a rather small item, but it opens up the world of scouting to our scouts and let them introduce them to new adventures that they might not have opportunities to explore before. Without either of those, we could probably get along and get through scouting, but we wouldn't be experiencing it to the fullest. In today's day and age, and especially in the situation we're in now, our cell phones are also a key for all of us. It lets us perform multiple tasks throughout the day. We navigate through our day, and some of us couldn't live without our cell phones just because of everything that's going on. And like our scouts, they rely on their cell phones as well to experience what scouting has to offer, looking up merit badges, looking up rank requirements, and even accessing their handbooks. And all of us here as leaders, we act as a key to our scouts. We introduce them to the adventures, to experience, and to help make them successful and enjoy what they're getting out of scouting. We're in an unusual age right now. We're embracing the technology we have, and we need to continue to kind of look to provide the keys to our scouts to make them successful and experience scouting. It may not look like scouting right now, but we're still participating in it. And the only way you can get through it is together. So please embrace the technology. We had a lot of great stories here, a lot of great successes, and let's continue to build upon these experiences and keep scouting going to our youth. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. So that will wrap up our April virtual roundtable. So if anybody has any other suggestions or questions, comments, feel free to share them in the chat. And if the meeting closes before you get a chance to share it, you can pass it up through your commissioner or your district executive, and there'll be stuff that we'll look at and see how we can build upon providing a better roundtable program for you moving forward. So again, I want to thank you all for attending this evening, and enjoy your scouting.
Adrien, real quick.
Yes, sir.
This is Kevin Thompson.
Yep.
I just want to throw this out there. I think at our peak, we had 110 people attending a single Narragansett Council roundtable. I'm not sure, but I think that's close to a record.
It was actually 127.
127, even more, even better. So that's just amazing and awesome all at the same time.
Oh, Tiffany corrected me, 140.
Holy moly.
So,
all right.
okay, great.
Excellent.
Thank
Good
you.
job, everybody.